I'm sorry. You all could not hear me. I'm just a talking. I'm sorry, y'all. I am so sorry. It's been one of those mornings. Had a minute trying to get online. My internet access was, doing what it does. So forgive me. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Friday, January 9th, 2025, 2026. And it is 6:35 a.m. and it is rainy. It's 32 degrees outside. The high is going to be 58 degrees today, but the weather is going to change over the weekend and it will feel like it's in the 20s again. So dress accordingly. The morning motivation today is really around and we'll be addressing hate. Um, you know, Hate just for the sake of being hateful, for the sake of not understanding who the people are around you in your community, etc. So I'm going to address it at 7 a.m. Thank you, Marguerite. I appreciate your making me aware that I was just talking and you weren't hearing anything. At 7 this morning, we will have State Rep Morgan Cephas on to address her run for the 3rd congressional seat in Pennsylvania. And as you all are aware, we have sent an invitation to everyone who has decided that they wanted to run for this 3rd congressional seat, even people whose names you have not heard of. You've heard me invite a few people, spoken to a few people here. And so we're giving you the opportunity to make up your mind despite all the things that we're being told out here. All right. I am going to read the morning motivation. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some other stuff before State Rep Cephas comes on. Some weeks ago, and I think I wrote this in 2021, I walked into Joe's Meat Market, which is no longer named Joe's, so you can tell how long it was, and immediately saw a parent from my children's elementary school. She had her back turned to me, but I remembered her as one of the people who said they would rather die than have a black person on the board of the PTA back then. I chuckled to myself and waited. Sure enough, she turned, saw me, and her face crumpled. Not because she knew I was aware of what she had said, because she wasn't. Her face crumpled because there I stood, fully uncompromising in my energy, and she simply could not deal. On her way out, she tried to walk past me without getting too close and wasn't able to because the place was crowded and the lines long. She literally huffed as she tried to blow past, and I laughed that she allowed her hate to cause her such angst while I was clearly unaffected by her foolishness. The best thing you can do for folks like that is to live your best life. My children succeeded despite their awful behaviors in school towards them because they were taught to never allow anyone to make them feel unworthy or dictate their trajectory based on ignorance. I also saturated them, my children, with stories of their ancestry to combat the negativity they would encounter that looked like lack of expectations and so much more. It is not our problem, hear me. Love takes far less energy than hate. Um, I live when prayer was taken out of school. It was because of a woman who lived in Roslyn, Pennsylvania, in Abington Township. And the township made national news as a direct result. And in that township, while it is filled with beautiful people who have moved and have lived there for decades, some of them all their lives, there have been a movement when my children were in elementary and middle school and high school. It got a little bit better in high school in Abington. There were only like one or two of them per class, two black children or brown children. That number has changed drastically over the years, and we were just not feeling welcomed. And every time a cross was burned on our lawns or leaflets were thrown on our lawns about us not belonging in the township, we kept hearing that it was from people outside the town that would create this negativity towards us. And so began the conversation around where we live. Who are the people we live amongst? And when January 21st, 2021 happened, and I looked and I saw school board members and I saw teachers and I saw doctors and I saw all the people that are in our neighborhoods that live amongst us. I need you to pay attention to who live amongst you. They'll smile, wave with their newspaper and say good morning, and they literally cannot stand the fact that we live in their communities with them. And I kept saying to my children and to the children in the Vibe and Imagine programs, live your best lives. The children were struggling. They're being treated horribly. They were, accounting for most of the detentions and the suspensions. And we would get calls that 9-year-olds were locked up for God knows what. And I kept saying to them, live your best lives. And if should you choose to stay in this township, know what it is that you're working with, because this is a microcosm of the country, literally. So said, so done. Here we are in 2026, and we're living in the microcosm of what this township was across the country. There are people who just still believe and have been very angry. And I've been telling all of you this for years because I've heard them in my meetings, and they've said it quite frankly. We don't want the black folks, especially black women, to grow and live amongst us. They're getting more degrees than we are getting. The jobs that our uncles would just have ready for us. One mayor of a town says, look, this is the way we've always run things. We give the jobs, the cushy jobs to our nephews and our nieces, et cetera, et cetera. That began to shift. And as a direct result, when you saw people, you kept saying they voted against their best interest. No, they didn't. They voted because they wanted the country back that they had been accustomed to, until the country that they have been accustomed to have literally in their heads and minds and hearts turned against them, because they're feeling the same angst and the same stressors that was supposed to be designed for people that did not look like them. To the allyship, to the people who did not look like me, Julie Nahill and many, many others, Diana Paxton, a whole bunch of them, who fought on behalf of everyone that caught hell, that had to change their names in social media settings, etc., to continue to stand up for Black and brown people, to continue to stand up for trans children, to continue to stand up for LGBTQ, like all of it. Today, they're the voices that we see in the social media platforms that are speaking up despite what it looks like. They're the ones who are saying that we are going to die for this cause, and we're tired of having Black folks stand up with no results, and we're going to have to do something. These are all white women. And so when I say to you, know your tribe and understand what's in front of you, don't cut a wall and mollywop and all the things. Don't even give it energy. What you can do, the best thing you can do is to thrive. To thrive. Right? To thrive and to help other people around you to thrive so that you can do what you need to do. And then to be the best examples of yourself. People expect Black and brown people to be perfect. Oh, see, I told you they were no good. Meanwhile, dude is out in Yaden collecting bones out of the cemetery. Folks are just being shot and killed at random, and we're being told that they're terrorists and all the other things that are being said about folks. White folks are now seeing that what Black folks have been saying forever and a day is now clear and present in front of them. So I'm asking you, choose your tribes wisely. And just because they look just like you, and I'm talking to Black and brown folks now, if you see that they're making decisions that's only for their benefit and not for the collective, then you want to walk away from them too. Harriet Tubman would have left quite a few people behind. And I get it, we want to make our money and we want to do this and we want to be a part of this part of society. But part of the reason why we're standing here today is because we became a part of that society. We were making the $200,000 and $300,000, $400,000, $1,000,000 a year. And we were going to places, the Marthas of the Vineyards and all the things. We were trying Santa Greece. They're so sick of us being there because once one person goes, then we all show up and we start showing the same things. We have to learn how to move quietly, y'all, and sometimes just sit still. Go learn about your family history and go visit the places where your family came from, down south or wherever else. But if nothing else, please, please, please stop posting all the things that you're out here doing, because people are angry that you've been able to gain the degrees. Now, the degrees where we would normally go to, education, nursing, are now considered not the degrees that are highly esteemed. Can you imagine? Right? They're no longer considered professional degrees, which downgrades how much you get paid, which downgrades how you get support when you're going off to college. Going to college has become more difficult. They're giving you a lifetime. You can only borrow for a certain amount of money. So you can borrow for your undergraduate and a certain amount, but if you go over that certain amount, you can't get it for your master's degree, you can't get it for your doctoral degrees. Do you see what is happening here? And so read the tea leaves, my darling. Read what's happening in the room. Pull your children together and say, this is what's happening right now in the country, and this is what we need to do. Had I allowed that woman and the whole group of them that were sitting in their living rooms talking about Black people in the most disdainful ways, they put their children in the elementary schools and then took them out for middle and high schools because there were too many Negroes in the middle and high school, and the Negroes were bringing the drugs. Come to find out, the Negroes were not bringing the drugs, and it wasn't the Negroes who were out there being laid out on the streets. Right? When you dig a grave for one, dig a grave for all. Seriously. So be mindful. I now need you all to turn and take a look at how you can support each other, support the folks in your community that look like you and don't look like you. Right? There are folks who are really willing and able and wanting to do the work. This 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed in Minnesota by ICE. I have someone who just retired from the FBI who will be on Tuesday morning to have a discussion with us about why that officer is not going to be found guilty, why that officer will never see a day in court, what she's doing as a direct result of retiring in September has yet to see a dime. And she says they're now telling her it will be another 6 to 18 months before she sees a dime. She's talking about folks who are in their particular chat groups who are like their mortgages are coming, they can't afford their mortgages, they're about to lose their homes, many have lost their cars, having to figure out how to downgrade your lives, etc., etc. It is here. The time is here upon us. And my beautiful darling David Alexander Jenkins looked at me yesterday and said, girl, he said, there's no place safe around the world. It has gotten so untenable everywhere, right? And should you decide that you want to leave and maybe come back, you might not be able to come back because of all the things that are happening. So when you see David having that kind of a reaction after he had been talking to me for over a year about all of this, then you know we're in a deep place. I need to move on, and let me look at some of the morning. I tell you, this morning has been, whoo, child. Alexandra says, Marvel, you just reminded me that I have to call my mom and aunt about the bone collector to make sure my grandparents' grave wasn't desecrated by him. Crazy as hell. Good morning, Jacinia. Good morning, Laverne. I see you all here. Sharon says, I cannot say I'm shocked about that person collecting the bones. I lived in Yaden for 34 years. There's a lot more going on there. I'm recommending that all of you go and watch, if you have Netflix, and many of you got it in COVID, to go watch The Cover Up before it is taken off the air. It follows a journalist who had uncovered many of the dastardly things that he saw happening around the world at the hands of the United States government. Go watch that documentary, The Cover Up, right? And it'll speak to why we are where we are today and why things have not changed so much, right? Monica says, yes, let your light shine brightly and lovely. It drives the haters crazy. Who was Mrs. Brown was from the air? I don't even know what you're talking about. Mrs. Brown. I see your. Good morning, Marguerite. Sharon, good morning. Shaquilla, good morning. Your birthday is coming up. Laura, thank you for the soup date yesterday, honey. I had a good time with you. Happy Friday. Alexandra. Laverne says the bone collector in real time. It's all kinds of crazy things going on out here, y'all. We just, we're so concerned. Good morning, David. Good morning. Sharon says she'll be watching that this weekend. I yesterday spoke to all of you about the New York Fed's secret cash infusion that raises fears of the new bank crisis. Janet Yellen, this was written on January 5th. She's the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. She warns that the $38 trillion national debt is testing a red line economists have feared for decades. We are here, darlings. It's upon us. She says 2,000 years before the U.S. federal government debt crossed the $38 trillion threshold, the Roman Empire faced a similar-looking calculus, a state with increasingly expensive obligations and a very limited appetite for taxes. To pay for this discrepancy, emperors pursued a policy known as debasement, gradually shaving off the silver from the coins until until the value of the metal became more about its symbol than the metal itself. In practical terms, it's a way to pay bills without fully admitting the cost. The long run risk wasn't just hyperinflation, it was that once people stopped trusting the coin, everything else in the economy became harder to coordinate. The modern equivalent isn't literal coin shaving, but as 2026 starts with the US staring down a 120% debt to gross domestic product ratio, top economists, including former Fed Chair Janet Yellen, fear a different sort of debasement will begin, something called fiscal dominance. Fiscal dominance is the point at which financing needs to begin to constrain the central bank inflation fight, and the adjustment happens through the purchasing power of money rather than through taxes or spending cuts. Imagine the US economy is a car with the Treasury as the driver, ready to spend money at the government's behest, and the Federal Reserve is the brake, ready to raise interest rates to slow inflation if the Treasury spends too much. The car is now towing a $38 trillion trailer. The weight is so heavy that if the Fed hits the brakes too hard, the brake pads will explode from the pressure. The government's interest payments will become too expensive, causing a default. In 2025, the interest alone in the debt that we owe was over $1 trillion. I need us to pay attention to that. So, to prevent the car from crashing, the Fed is forced to let off the brake, even if the car is speeding toward the cliff of overspending. The result? Hyperinflation. So, you heard me read yesterday that the feds have been putting money into the banks every 3 days, right? Let me let you know this was written by DC Report, and the topic of that was big banks enjoy stealth bailouts, right? And it says ominous signs that at least one of America's too big to fail banks is yet seriously short of cash emerged this weekend in documents examined by James Henry, DC Report's economics correspondent. For the past 2 months, the Federal Reserve has been silently injecting tens of billions of dollars of cash into banks. No one announced this. Henry found the evidence in public records that few, if any, Wall Street journalists consult, but what we routinely review at DC Report. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York, NY Fed, acted like a financial Santa Claus to recklessly naughty bankers, delivered $17 billion in cash to an unknown bank or banks at 8 a.m. the morning after Christmas. That's the latest scary development that has gone unreported until now. The sudden demands for cash to cover shortfalls began on Halloween. That day, the New York Fed injected more than $50 billion into one or more unnamed banks. Since then, it has injected tens of billions of dollars into banks 14 times, delivering money galore roughly every third business day. What does that mean for the average person that has their money in their banks? You can't go unlimited cash. You can't. The bottom is going to fall out. Uh, the vaguely worded announcement seems to tell bankers that they can get up to $240 billion in cash each day to cover their shortfalls. Even if read narrowly, the policy would allow cash infusions twice per day, so up to $80 million per bank on any one day with no overall banking industry limit. To give you an idea of how much money is involved, consider this. Together, the six biggest banks earned $152 billion in profits last year, less than any two of them could get in cash on a single day by a narrow reading of the new policy. To get the cash, banks hand over treasury notes and bonds, mortgages, and other securities known as repo. Then they get to borrow cash at a face value. The banks also pay super low interest rates, noted Bill Black, who was a banking regulator, uncovering the savings and loan scandals 3 decades ago that resulted in almost 900 level bankers going to prison. And Black notes, should their corporate parents seek refuge in bankruptcy courts, the normal rules don't apply. Another little known government favor for misbehaving bankers. This is crazy as hell. So let me tell you something. Should America face a new Wall Street debacle, JP Morgan would likely get all the help it wants, perhaps even forcing it to accept cash infusions. So here we are, right? Uh, JP Bank is, uh, buying silver, and they're calling it the silver squeeze. And the big problem is that there's not enough actual silver available for trading to get JP Morgan out of the squeeze it got into through unbridled greed. The more silver prices rise, the more JP Morgan gets hurt. This is crazy. So Chase banks have been opening up everywhere, particularly in our cities, in our urban areas. Start to ask the question, why? Why? Why is that happening? Are we trying to get cash infusions by telling the community, we're here for you, put your money here, put your money here? You don't have to pay this, you don't have to pay this level of interest rate. Something is going on. And I need us to pay attention to it. In about 4 minutes, we'll have Morgan Cephas on. Let me take a look over here. Ah, dear God. This was written by 6ABC News. Woman killed by ICE agent in Minneapolis was a mother of 3, poet, and new to the city. She was Renee Nicole Macklin Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3 who had recently moved to Minnesota. She was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado and appeared to have never been charged with anything involving law enforcement beyond a traffic ticket. In social media accounts, Macklin Good described herself as a poet and writer and wife and a mom. She was currently experienced in Minneapolis, displaying a pride flag emoji on her Instagram account. Her profile picture posted to Pinterest shows her smiling and holding a young child against the cheek, along with posts about tattoos, hairstyles, and home decorating. We are, well. And then there was a GoFundMe campaign for her family, who was killed, has raised more than $700,000. The campaign started on Wednesday, January 2nd, aimed to support the wife and son of Renee Good as they grapple with the devastating loss of their wife and mother. According to its description, Good was shot while in her Honda SUV by an unidentified Immigration Customs Enforcement agent on Wednesday. He's now identified. And so here we are. The tensions are flaring. That was written by usatoday.com. Tensions are flaring after ICE officer kills a woman. Minneapolis is on the edge Thursday following the fatal shooting of a woman by federal officers taking part in the Trump administration's latest immigration crackdown. Philadelphia joined the protests, right? So that was 6abc.com. Philadelphia region joined the protests, but the protests are growing all around the country. I don't know if you saw uh, the district attorney for Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, and the sheriff, Rochelle Bilal, standing up on behalf of Philadelphia citizens and saying if ICE comes here and if they don't follow the law, it's going to be a problem here in this city. Many people felt safer knowing that someone in government was speaking up on behalf of the citizens, and I kept hearing that over and over again yesterday. So that's good, right? Because they were like, it's just been pure silence here, and ICE has been here in this city for quite some time, right? So there's been now people recording that they're in North Philadelphia, and I'm looking at his face. State Rep, what is his name? I'm looking at his face. He's now Vice President of the Democratic Kenyatta, Malcolm Kenyatta. Said that he's been getting messages from his constituents and he's looking into it. So, here we are. The district attorney and the sheriff of the city are now involved while Philadelphia is getting ready for its 250-year centennial, celebration here. There has been conversation that when the rubber meets the road is going to happen right here in this city as a direct result because all eyes will be on it. There has been talk that the president himself said he's looking to cancel the midterm elections as a direct result of the behaviors of the people in the country, the left-leaning folks. Pay attention to the language, pay attention to the room, read the tea leaves, and prepare yourselves accordingly. This is just not going to end, in a way that you think it should, right? Let me see. They're now Mayor Parker. The Philadelphia public schools took center stage Wednesday as Mayor Sherrell Parker and district leaders outlined a vision focused on expanding year-round learning. The federal Philadelphia Federation of Teachers said they just learned that two schools are going to be year-round, and no one consulted them, and they can't do it without them. So here we are. That's CBS News. The mayor says, I want year-round schooling for our young people in the city of Philadelphia, Parker said. Josh Shapiro, our governor, is set to run for a second term as Pennsylvania governor, trailed by talk of a 2028 White House bid. And we've seen Governor Shapiro do this, where he is set to run to continue to stay in an office, and then you look around and he's running for something else. I don't know what's going to happen, but it was a big to-do in the city. All the people were out there. Philadelphia youth basketball event, at their building, and everybody was out there cheering him on. Governor Shapiro has made national headlines as a direct result of his outspokenness about what's happening in this government and in this country. So we will see what happens. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro will run for a second term in the pivotal background state after a first term that put him on the Democratic Party's radar as a potential presidential contender in 2028. I don't want you all to overlook that, right? And he made the formal announcement Thursday at events in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Although he hasn't disclosed any ambitions for a higher office, his re-election effort will be closely watched as another test of whether he's White House material. And so this was written by 6abc.com. New Jersey is the latest state to ban cell phones during the school day. I think every school should do it anyway. Our teachers, even the teachers, everybody is so addicted to their phones, right? I have been myself working to put my phone somewhere else. I sleep in another room. If I wake up, my first instinct is to reach for my phone. I'm working to stop that. I'm working to have conversations with my husband without my phone in my hands. I'm working to go places and do things without having my phone in my hands. There's no need for all of that. And I think our children are being affected in a dangerous way when they have those phones all day long. So New Jersey on Thursday joined a growing list of states to limit students' cell phone use during the school day. Democratic Governor Phil Murphy signed legislation requiring the State Education Commission and local school boards to come up with guidelines for the use of cell phones in schools for grades K to 12. That was written by 6abc.com. The White House on Thursday is expected to present the latest plans for the East Wing renovation project in a public meeting, the first of its kind, so we don't know what they're going to say. That was written by 6abc.com. City and state officials, school leaders, educators, and community organizations gathered Wednesday for the School District of Philadelphia's third annual State of the Schools address at Thomas Alva Edison High School. And so he's saying Mayor Sherrell Parker opened the program and said the city of Philadelphia has made sustained long-term investments in our schools because our children's needs are urgent. She noted that her first budget shifted $25 million in property tax revenue to the School District of Philadelphia, followed by an additional $12 million under the city's second budget 5-year plan. That was written by phillytrib.com. This is the part. In a remarkable rebuke of Republican leadership, the House is moving ahead Thursday on legislation that would extend expired healthcare services for the Affordable Care Act after renegade GOP lawmakers joined essentially all Democrats to help millions of Americans afford insurance under Obamacare. Forcing the issue to a vote came after a handful of Republicans signed on to so-called discharge petition to unlock debate by passing objections from House Speaker Mike Johnson. If approved, the bill would go to the Senate, where pressure is building for a similar bipartisan compromise. Without actions, estimates are that millions will go uninsured this year. This was written by the AssociatePressNews.com article. Oh boy. Philadelphians will see 15% discount on flood insurance starting in April. Philadelphians who pay for federal flood insurance will get a 15% discount on their premiums starting this spring. That was written by WHYY.org. uh, whew, Lord have mercy. So much going on. I don't see State Rep Morgan Cephas yet, so I don't know where she is. I'm hoping that someone will send an email or she will be joining us shortly because that is where we are. What is this? I don't even know what that is. So, good morning. Alexandra says ICE is already here at 17 and ceases being more the 22nd Police District. Yes, I saw the news for that. Uh, Joanne Kemp says the Trump administration has already made the decision to give him immunity. They've already cleared him in their public comments, and the FBI has taken over the away from the Minneapolis law enforcement. They're the only ones that's dealing with this case right now. So people are upset about that. I need you all to pay attention. For those who have worked in police departments and have worked with federal officers and have gone through the training, you learn that they're taught to shoot in the trunk and the head. That's it, right? So we're going to talk about that. Alexandra says the black man saved the country economically, and we're about to collapse again. Good morning, Beatrice. Good morning, my darling. So Alexandra says the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad is warning also, pointing out that the cost of gold, silver, and copper has risen, and that is an economic warning. Many of us have been having this conversation, Alexandra. David and I had the conversation with you all in November 6th or 7th of 2024. And David said, go ahead and buy gold because this is where you're going to find what you need. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you have trouble coming in?
Yes, I was absolutely in the wrong location. Mind you, we have been on these platforms for the last 5 years and still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's all right. I had a little problem getting on my own platform too. So let's go. You'll get the same 30 minutes everybody gets, and you're going to be asked the same question everybody got, right? Just to keep it fair. State Rep Morgan Cephas is an American politician serving as the Democratic state representative for Pennsylvania's 192nd House District in Philadelphia, a seat she first won in 2016. Before joining the legislature, she worked as deputy chief of staff to a Philadelphia city councilman and in external affairs at the Philadelphia Youth Network. She chairs the Government Oversight Committee and leads the Philadelphia House delegation. She's also co-founder and co-chair of the Pennsylvania Black Maternal Health Caucus. Good morning and welcome to this conversation. This is, oh, come on, dude. He didn't give me the questions that I asked everybody else. Come on. I'm just looking at that. So you're about to get a whole new set of questions. So what I've been doing was giving everyone the same set of questions, but I kind of remember what the questions were, and then I'll add on as needed. So you get to do this differently, right? Marguerite says, hello, sir. My state rep. It's Morgan, not Megan. I think that was a typo. So good morning to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, so that the people can get to know who you are and why you're running for the Third Congressional Congress.
Fantastic. So, first and foremost, I just want to thank you so much for having me as a part of this conversation and just really being intentional about what the future of the city of Philadelphia is going to be, particularly as it relates to the chaos down in Washington, D.C., and what we can do here with the third congressional district.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, I am State Representative Morgan Cephas, as you stated, and I've had the honor of my life to represent my neighbors in West Philadelphia in the 192nd. And it's a community where I was born, a community that raised me, a community that I never left, and I still absolutely live here. So again, it's been an honor and privilege to represent them. But how I got to the legislature, let me take you back a little bit. I am one of 4 girls that was raised by 2 sets of amazing parents. One of the initial things that they've constantly instilled in us is that if we want a better life, if we want to see a better community, a better country, it's something that we have to not only demand, but particularly in this moment that we have to fight for. So my mother, who was a District Council 47 retiree. She stood on that original picket line in 1986. If you remember, it was a hot topic last year. And, while she was on that picket line at a young age, she was, again, demanding and fighting for so many of the economic justice issues that we're fighting for today. So increased wages, better benefits, a retirement plan where she's not forced to go back to work, which she now, given the economy, is actually working in going back to work as a direct result of the increased cost of almost everything across the board. And believe it or not, she had a young activist in a stroller at 2 years old while she was on that picket line, and didn't realize that I was getting my union card and my activism card so early. But I can honestly say I did not hold a picket sign. I was actually there because she couldn't afford childcare. So, at a very early age, in early time in her career, she, faced so many economic justice issues and challenges, just at that point. And again, it instilled in all of us that if you want the life that you dream of, if you want a country that looks like a country where you can thrive, you got to demand it and fight for it. So that is one of the reasons why I was one of those young people that woke up at 6 a.m. in order to access a quality education. I had to go an hour outside of my community because I did not have a central high school in my backyard. So it was me and my other sisters. But then I also had to stay all the way until 7 p.m. I was a track and field athlete, and I recognized early on, because, college was not affordable and it was something that I wanted to obtain. I had to, figure out a way to get a scholarship. And luckily I was able to do that. I was able to get a scholarship to a Division I institution, University of Virginia. But I was also that young person that had to work that $5.15 minimum wage job. If you can believe that, Andrea,
What
at
year?
that time.
What year was that?
This was back in 2004 and 2005.
And the minimum wage is still $7 and some.
We are still at a whopping 725 here in Pennsylvania. mind you, in the House of Representatives, and I'll get to that, which is why it's important that when we go into these chambers coming from safe seats, like in the city of Philadelphia, as in you can get elected, you will be elected for the next 20 to 30 years. But you have an obligation to the communities that we represent, particularly as one of the biggest, poorest cities in the country. You have an obligation not just to sit on your hands and just wear that honorable title, but you have to make transformative change. And again, you have to demand and fight for what you want to see if you want to tackle the challenges that we have here today. So I say that because as a safe seat coming from Philadelphia, not only did we take back the chamber in the House of Representatives during that blue wave, but we also kept it during the red wave of 2024. And we needed to do that so we can address things like the minimum wage. So in our chamber, we were able to pass a bill to increase the minimum wage here in the city of Philadelphia up to $15 an hour, which we know is not a livable wage when you come here in the city of Philadelphia, but that was what we were able to get and garner at that time. So I say that to say $5.15 when I was growing up, but I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. I have known you in passing for several years now. This is the best description I've heard of you and your childhood.
Oh,
And
I
it
appreciate
opened
that.
up, I'm telling you, it opened up an understanding. This is why I tell
Mm.
people, tell your stories, right?
Mhm.
I didn't know any of this stuff, right? And I'm
Yeah,
sure many people didn't know any of this stuff. And
right,
it humanizes you beyond just
right.
being a politician. It
Absolutely.
tells the story of
Mhm,
why you are where you
mhm.
are and why you're doing what you're doing. So kudos to you and your team for that. And I
I will
felt
give
every bit
I
of
will
it
give kudos to my team. Yes, you
because it
have to.
makes a difference. So thank you for
Absolutely.
that. Now, listen, I've asked Dr. Ayla this. I've asked another person this. We know Philadelphia politics, and we know that it's not easy. People are chosen as the chosen one.
Mhm,
I happen to be aware that the powers that be in this city weren't particularly kind about your run
mhm.
for, and I'm just going to be really honest about this. Tell me how you have navigated and continue to stay in the fray
Mm.
despite what I have learned, and you don't have to get into it because I'm talking. You don't have to
Oh
acknowledge it
no.
out there, right? Despite what I have learned about how you have been treated,
Mm.
while you're doing your run, despite that you've been in office for several years, despite. Tell me how you're navigating the naysayers around you, particularly at the highest levels.
I appreciate your candor and recognizing that Black women, women in general, when it comes to
Mhm.
politics, we are not oftentimes given a seat at the table. But that doesn't mean that we are not impacted by the bad policies of Republicans, but also the status quo of some Democrats. And when you say the powers that be not wanting to have my voice in Congress representing a community that raised me, it reminds me of my race in 2016. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if you know this. This might be something that
This
you're
is
learning.
probably new to me again. What the hell happened in 2016?
So in 2016, the powers that be did not want me to run for state office. I was young at the time. They thought I was too young. They thought I did not have the experience that I needed to represent my constituents and, again, the community where I was raised. I was not the Democratic nominee. And, I decided to run anyway because, again, I talk about, my upbringing where I had to travel an hour outside of my community in order to access a quality education. Many people were still living on the margins. Again, we are at $725 an hour.
Mhm.
And if I wanted to see the community that, I dream of, that I'm preparing for the next generation, I had to demand a seat at the table, but then fight for it. So as a direct result in 2016, I ran anyway against the naysayers. I was one of five. I was the youngest in the race. But then again, I walked away with 40% of the vote at that time. And
Mhm.
again, as a direct result, I've been able to be a part of a team up in Harrisburg that has been transformative. And when I say that, because we've had the majority in Harrisburg, I've been able to do tremendous things for my community. And so when I think of bringing that first special admit school over into West Philadelphia, so the next generation is not traveling an hour outside of their community, that is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. Or when I think about building a new elementary school, because I had a young person, write to me and ask, why is my school building in the condition that it's in when the students over in Lower Marion High School have a different experience? And I felt that. And she was a fourth grader. And Andrea, she asked the question, is it because I'm Black that I get less of an opportunity in education? And so as a direct result, I was a part of a team that built the new elementary school. Or when I
Mhm.
think about graduating in a significant level of student loan debt,
Mhm.
I worked with, Google and Community College of Philadelphia, where I sit on the board
Mhm.
to, bring the two together to offer
Mhm.
access to AI and IT
Mhm.
opportunities for the next generation coming up at a low
Mhm.
cost so they're not going into student loan debt, or
Mhm.
partnering CCP with Cheney University. So in the city of Philadelphia, not only can you access a HBCU, but you can get a 4-year degree down at Spring Garden. And,
Mhm.
these are the type of things that, I've been able to do to be transformative. And in this moment, coming from a safe seat as a Democrat, we have to ensure that we're leveraging this opportunity to be
Mhm.
transformative. So again, I understand that the powers that be, have a chosen one, but, the people that will determine the future of the
Mhm.
third congressional district and the future of the city of Philadelphia is the people of Philadelphia. And that is how I've navigated. I have, yes, made my case to the powers that be, but you also go door to door and you absolutely have to earn every
Absolutely.
single vote. And that is how I'm
Absolutely.
going to navigate the
Mhm.
politics of city of Philadelphia, is going
Mhm.
directly to the people, because the people are fed up with status quo. The people are fed up with what is happening down in Washington, D.C., and they absolutely want to see something different in this moment. Again, I come from the millennial generation. So not only are we
That's
dealing
part of the
with,
reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because
yeah,
I am a millennial girl to my heart. You hear
yeah.
me? I have
Mhm.
consistently lifted millennials. I heard them say to me, Marva, the way we are treated in these
Mm.
rooms. The way we are dismissed, even though we bring all of this
Mhm.
collateral, the brain power, they take our brain power and then dismiss us and say, go wait your turn.
Right.
So that's why I asked you that question, because it flies in the face of people telling you to wait your turn. I didn't know
Yeah.
your story about 2016, so thank you again. See, when you
Yeah.
share with Marvel, all good things happen, because I didn't know. I had no
I love
idea.
it. I love
I
it.
also met your sister. I
Oh, yes.
interviewed her with Pastor Wallace. She is one
Oh,
to
yeah.
watch too,
Oh,
right?
she's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Listen,
And
she's on
so,
my team.
well, praise the Lord and Pastor
She's on
must
my
be saying,
team.
good,
That is
good,
Chelsea
good.
Cox's
Yes,
C2
yes,
Consulting.
yes, yes, yes. She is on your team. I did talk to her
Yeah.
when we were trying to get you to come on to do the interview. If you are successful in this bid, how will you be different from politics as usual? How would you raise your voice in a way that has not been raised without? I'm gonna keep that to myself, because there's a whole lot of backroom deals that happens in politics,
Mhm.
right? And we get
Right.
that you have to compromise and collaborate, etc. But some of these backroom deals harm the people that they're
Mhm.
purportedly serving, and then they come out and say, we tried our best. How
Mm.
will you be a different kind of leader? How will you raise your voice in a way that we haven't seen very often?
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to, where I am in life. I mean, like so many of us, I'm in a sandwich generation where I am coming from a generation that potentially will not do as economically as well as our parents, but then we're also concerned about the livelihood of our parents as they reach retirement age. So, you talked about my sister, and I have a niece that is 5 years old, and she has to worry about childcare, kindergarten, pre-K. And when you see Washington D.C. just recently freezing $10 billion in childcare subsidies to states that are democratic states that are raising their voices, pushing back a fascist regime that is not only tanking our reputation and committing war crimes overseas, but is decimating our economy here locally. That is, even more of a reason that we have to step up and be in this space in a different way. Because again, it's not just about my younger sister being able to afford the skyrocketing cost of childcare, which we know is toppling at roughly $25,000 a year, but it's also my mother that is concerned about in real time what's happening to Medicare, what's happening to Social Security, what's happening to her retirement fund. I mean, she is a cancer survivor, and I, pray every day and just am extremely thankful. But, with coming with cancer comes with also pharmaceuticals. So when you talk about when you talk about the insurance lobby and the ACA, when you talk about pharmaceutical skyrocketing, it's more of a reason and reinforces why we got to show up differently. And, one of the things that I will be adamant about is that this race is not just about, me winning a safe seat in the city of Philadelphia, but it's also about bringing as many Democrats from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as possible. We have 4 congressional seats that are highly contested across the state. So not only do I have to win this, but I got to win those other seats. So Pennsylvania is doing its part down in Washington, D.C. No longer can we have a 2024 where we lost a United States senator, we lost 2 Congress members, and we have to ensure that we are moving Pennsylvania to an absolute blue state. But then also, like my work in the legislature, I am the only candidate in this race that has actually gotten 4 bills to the governor's desk in a bipartisan way, but as the lead sponsor, because the only way that you are able to garner and maintain power is you have to have that seat at the table, which is why it was important to flip that chamber. And that is what we have to do down in Washington, D.C. But we also have to ensure that as a Democratic Party, as we are a wide tent, as they say, we can't be afraid of bold ideas. We can't be afraid of when we have a New York mayor that's talking about child care for
And
all.
universal child care for all.
Universal child care.
The mayor and the governor work together.
Universal child care, work together. And you saw the governor was extremely hesitant when he came into office, but recognizing that every single family is grappling with and making decisions. Do they pay their heating bill? Do
Right.
they, stay home, or do they leave work because childcare expenses are just becoming astronomical? And
Mhm.
that's not a conversation that we can just have at the city and state level where we're
Mhm.
nickel and diming, robbing Peter to pay Paul. We need the federal government to step up and pass universal childcare so we have the resources so families can thrive, because it's not just about the family, it's an economic issue, it's a
Oh,
workforce issue. It drives our entire economy. And if our federal government is not, stepping up, if we're not raising our voices in a way that we have to tackle this affordability issue and this affordability challenge, then we're feeding right into the bad policies in the hands of Republicans. And that is not something that we can do. But it's not just about childcare, it's about transportation. Andrea, over the past several months, I've been leading the fight as the Philadelphia delegation chair to save our mass transit system. And
mhm.
again, did we get it in a place that, it needed to land? Absolutely not. But we understand that our buses and the wheels are still moving. But we also understand that, again, we cannot keep relying on cities and states with all of the challenges that they are presented to keep nickel and diming these systems that need to be sustainable. So we need to think about Free to Be Mobile, which is a bill that was introduced by
Mhm.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, where it shifts dollars from roads and bridges that we constantly talk about when we're talking about infrastructure. We need to talk about infrastructure when it comes to urban communities, because the vast majority of this country is moving into our urban centers because we have the access to the jobs. We have access to, the cultural,
Mobility, right?
the community,
Yeah.
education
Mhm.
opportunities. So
Mhm.
we are becoming those destinations, and we have to treat it that way. And that means
Mhm.
investing in universal childcare,
Mhm.
investing in mass transit for all. God forbid we talk about housing. There are so many issues and challenges that we are dealing with here in the city of Philadelphia. So
Mhm.
I feel like in this moment, to your question, what will make me different is elevating bold ideas that we haven't seen in this
Mhm.
country and getting back to the business of ensuring that we are attacking the affordability challenge here in this country.
Mhm. In order for you to do that, you're going to have more people. You're going to need more people in Congress and Senate that are forward thinkers, that are
Hmm.
able to do what needs to be done. Mandami is 34 years old. You
Hmm.
know, the fear that came along with him, and that he was going to kill people, and all the other things that came along with it, is something that folks have been working to. So you've got quite a fan base here. I didn't realize all these people. I had no idea. But
I
listen,
appreciate it.
Essence Allen said this. She has a question for you. How can any new reps do anything in Washington? Because essentially you are all freshmen in a house of more seasoned reps. Let's talk about how Washington works. New reps have limited power. How will you make the difference? Or
Listen,
can you?
I'll give you a couple of ways. One is bringing as many of us to Congress as possible. You have younger reps like Congresswoman
Mhm.
Summer Lee, who comes out of Western PA. I had an opportunity to serve with her.
Mhm.
And, she did not sit idly by when it came to the Epstein files. It was
Mhm.
she that led on the oversight committee to get Republicans to actually vote to subpoena DOJ in order to get the Epstein file conversation going. It is, banding together to demand, the policies that we know are going to have a direct impact to people. And the beauty about going into that chamber at, I would say, a younger age, is that you have the ability to be there for a period of time to grow into leadership, but also to challenge leadership. And I
Mhm.
think, you would not have a country talking about Medicare for all if we weren't, talking about a healthcare system that
Mhm.
is, broken fundamentally. And you
Mhm.
are finally seeing a Hakeem Jeffries actually have a conversation about healthcare and recognizing that it's not just about the ACA tax credits. I mean, for a while, there was, a huge complaint about Democrats, just being the status quo, and the public has absolutely woken up Democrats down in Washington D.C. to
Mhm.
use every single power and every single opportunity to leverage the ability either to cross the aisle or to punch back against Republicans, because you know For oftentimes they seem to think what they're doing is only impacting urban communities. But when you go to some of these rural areas, when you talk about SNAP being cut off, it's not just about the consumer that's spending SNAP dollars, it's about the farmers that are
Mhm.
heavily subsidized by SNAP dollars. It's about, them, losing subsidies. Our corner grocery stores being impacted by those decisions. So I
Mhm.
think, you have younger reps that are raising and elevating the issues that people on the ground want to hear about. And I believe it's pushing leadership. And I think, it makes me think of being in the House of Representatives at a very young age. It was the first time when I got elected that we actually even talked about how are we going to tackle the student loan debt crisis here in the
Mhm.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? How are we really going to tackle childcare? And it takes, those voices from multiple generations to bring up the issues and challenges that, everybody is feeling on the ground. If you think about the millennial generation and the Gen Z generation, we are becoming the largest voting bloc in this country.
Not
And
becoming, you are.
we
You
are.
are.
I was trying to give it
Mhm.
some grace.
I know. I'm not giving it any grace because I've
I
been
love
talking
it.
about
I
it for
love it.
years. You are now the largest voting bloc, and there has been a murmur that has becoming a louder drum because people are becoming frightened by the fact that you all are gaining spaces. There is no way you should have a 34-year-old Indian American as the mayor of New York City. They tried everything, including his own Democratic Party, to shut him down.
Yeah.
So there has to be a way for us to invite and encourage new voices. The average age of Congress is 58 years old.
Hmm.
Average age. The great majority of them are in their 70s.
Hmm.
So there has to be some kind of turnaround to give us a new voice now, based on everything that's going on in the country. Oh, Father God.
I saw your social media post the other day where you had to lay in the bed for a longer period of time because you were a tad bit overwhelmed. But
I
what
am.
I would say is that is the strategy of the distractor in chief, and the Republicans are laying down and allowing it to happen. But also, what they're seeing is that their own constituents, what you saw in the 2025 election, is they want them to fight back just as much as we are fighting back. But what I will say, it's a little too late for them. They did not take this president on. Again, the distractor in chief has us focusing on Venezuela, but their constituents are telling them that things are still unaffordable. The economy is still tanking. These Epstein files are coming out, whether you like it or not. And the fact that his approval ratings are extremely tanking, he is trying to shift the narrative. And this is what Republicans do all the time, which is why we have to be adamant and diligent about allowing new voices into the conversation. And it's not even allowing, it's, I go back to, again, watching my mother on that picket line, fighting for higher wages, fighting for benefits, fighting for her retirement. You have to not only demand a seat at the table, but you got to fight for it. And this generation is fighting for it. I mean, it makes me think, when you think of our next generation that's coming up, I think we're at Generation A at this point. They're not practicing or training themselves for fire drills. They're training themselves for active shooter drills, which means we
Yes.
are going in the wrong direction in this country when it comes to, again, all the things that we talked about. But when we talk about gun violence, and if you think about it, it was the younger generation that actually elevated and raised and demanded change with this conversation. Did we get the change that we wanted to see? No, which is why we are adamant about having that seat at the table. I mean, when you think of, the challenges that we're facing, the only way that we're going to overcome them if we elevate these issues and move towards it and bring as many people to the table. That's a reflection of what we want to see in our economy right now. And right now, we're just not feeling it
At all. How can you be you're a part of the Democratic Party, but how can you be a different kind of Democrat? Oh, did I go there? I'm sorry.
No. Oh, please. We got to be a different kind of Democrat in this moment. I would say I'm a Democrat that delivers. Because again, I don't have the luxury as a woman in this country in my generation to fail. So when I go back and I talk about getting bills to the governor's desk, flipping a chamber, because again, we need a seat at the table so we can get out issues like minimum wage and we're not sitting at 725. When we actually can talk about, passing recreational marijuana here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because not only are we not, we are losing out on the industry, we are losing out on revenue. That is something that we were able to do in the House of Representatives. But again, it's also how do we get legislation that's transformative to to the residents that we represent. And I am the only candidate that has been able to do that. One of the issues that I focus on, is Black maternal health. And, we just saw Janelle Green Smith pass away in North Carolina. So we are far from out of the woods. But here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, not only did I get legislation to the governor's desk, but I also helped to move policy that expanded Medicaid up to a year postpartum for over 20,000 families across Pennsylvania. So expanding healthcare. I also only one that invested and created a universal basic income program for pregnant mothers or pregnant individuals, close up to 250. Say this again.
I was muted. I remember that the universal payment for mothers.
Universal
That was
basic
you.
income. Yes. Yes, we so worked with the City Department of Health, and we created a program, an innovation fund, where I was able to find them $250,000 to invest in a program. They were able to support 250 pregnant families over 18 months. It was $1,000 a month, no income guidelines, no questions asked, no series of forms that you had to fill out. But we were able to invest in that, and it was specifically as it related to Black maternal health. So got legislation to expand Medicaid to cover doula care, because we know doulas play a significant role when it comes to the birth outcomes, particularly when it comes to Black women giving birth here in this country. And as a direct result, we've been able to see our numbers decline in the city of Philadelphia. And that is what it means to be a different type of Democrat. It is, again, going up there, demanding and fighting. We have to fight against the Republicans, but we also got to get them out of office. It's not enough to go to the protests, to stand up at the podium, but we have to unelect them so we can have the seats at the table to set the agenda and move our country in the right direction. So that is how you have to be a different kind of Democrat, but you also have to have bold ideas, and in a way that you are able to penetrate in multiple different ways. So from a policy perspective, from a legislative perspective, from an investment perspective, to ensure that you're making the change that you want to make. And that is how I am going to show up differently. That's how I've showed up differently my entire 9 years being in the legislature. And that's the type of Democrat you're going to get down in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. You, for the last 30 minutes, have spoken to real issues in several ways that impact us every single day. You spoke about childcare, the cost of childcare. We've been having lots of discussions here about that. I have twin grandchildren. Their childcare until they got into preschool was over $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about, people retiring. You talked about people retiring. You brought it home to your mother. Lots of retirees continue to work because what they're getting in benefits for working all those years cannot cover the cost of living today. Right.
Yeah.
You spoke to being different in a way that people can understand. That being young doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing it. I'm grateful that you accepted this interview because I've learned things about you that I did not know, right? The universal basic income, we interviewed the folks here and I was so damn excited. Oh my
Philly
God.
Joy Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it a couple of years ago, and I'm happy to hear that it is something that worked. So you've given us a great description around why you are supposed to run for this office and why you should prevail. We're grateful for you for taking the time. Because I run my own platform, I will invite you back anytime I damn well
Please do. Please do.
Anyone that accepts the invitation to come here will get more than one opportunity to have conversation. If there's something that you want to highlight, like Dr. Ayla with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, if there's something that you see on the agenda that is concerning to you or that the people should know, write to my producer, Del Chelsea, and we will have you back on this platform. That's the beauty of owning your own ish, right?
Listen,
You don't have
I
to worry
commend
about.
you and just want to thank you and just applaud you for your tenacity, your intentionality, your voice at a time when honestly journalism is absolutely under attack. And the silence of voices when it comes to, again, pushing back against Republicans, I mean, you look at PBS, or when you're
Mhm.
pushing back against your own party to, elevate issues where both
Yeah.
parties are getting it wrong. And
Yes.
again, it is, because of your voice and what you're doing, you're moving the needle on the conversation. So when you ask the question, how are you going to show up different and be different? What you're doing is allowing us the space to do that.
Thank you. It has not been easy.
No,
Um, uh,
I've watched your journey.
there are days when I get up working and I say, Black Jesus, I'm done. And my husband says, no, you're
Listen,
not. You're
if
going
you
back
just
in
lean
there.
on a, if you leaning on a higher power, you're gonna make it through.
He's like, you got to keep talking. No one else is
Yeah,
covering the things like you're covering them.
yeah.
No one else is challenging everybody. I'm not going to. One of the things that I found unconscionable for me here, particularly in this city, is you can't talk about this because I know you. What? Say what
Right.
now? Praise the
Yeah.
Lord and pass the mustard seed. Say that again. And so I've
Yep.
deliberately kept myself out of a lot of the shenanigans.
Mhm.
Don't invite me to anything. I want to cover the news and cover it in a way that people can hear and understand. And for
Right.
those who are stubborn and believe that just not speaking about it, because the more I give you and Dr. Ayla and anyone else who comes on here to talk about what is important to them, the more I give
Mhm.
you a platform, the more people understand why you're
Right.
doing what you're doing
Yeah.
and trying to make a difference. I'm so grateful because I did not know so much of this stuff. People need to hear this stuff, Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They need to
No, I
hear this
mean
stuff.
it's fundamentally why I do what I do and why in this moment we cannot fail
Yeah.
because, we get the democracy, we get the country that we fight for. And I'm in a moment, and
Mm-hmm.
again when I look at, my mother, and I'm extremely concerned about her
Mm-hmm.
retirement. But again, I'm looking at Chelsea Cox, who you said
Mm-hmm.
yourself is an amazing
Oh yeah.
entrepreneur. As
Interviewed her.
she's,
Yep.
raising a daughter at 5 years old, I recognize
Mm-hmm.
when she turns 18, or even right now, she has less reproductive rights than we had.
Absolutely.
She has
Absolutely.
less voting access than we had. She has, books, history that is trying to be erased that she potentially might not ever encounter or know about.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not fight. This race isn't just about 2026. This is about 2036,
And
2046.
46. Right.
And
Yes.
because this
Decades from
is
now.
one of
Yes.
the bluest seats in the country,
Yeah.
it is a requirement. It is demanded of us to
Mm-hmm.
show up differently as
Mm-hmm.
Democrats, because again, we have to produce for the community that
Mm-hmm.
is suffering under, again, the bad policies of Republicans and the status quo of the Democratic
And
establishment.
the status quo. The bad policies of Democrats too. Marguerite
Yeah.
says, State Rep, if you are elected to Congress, have you groomed someone to lead where you currently served? Praise the Lord. What a great question.
That is a great question. I have groomed multiple people.
Okay.
And when you run for office, you're making a very difficult decision to give yourself to the public, and you have to be ready to serve.
Mm-hmm.
So in grooming someone, I want to ensure that this is, I don't want to, be the establishment that picks the successor. The people have to pick the successor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as long as I'm giving people the tools to do the best job possible, then the people will determine who they want to invest in. But to
Mm-hmm.
answer that question, yes, I have groomed several people. It
Good.
is up to the community of the 192nd to determine who they want
Right.
representing them in the House of Representatives. Now, I would love for it to be another Black woman because we need more women in
Mm-hmm.
politics. But
Mm-hmm.
again, this is a decision that's going to be left up to our constituents. God willing, I will be your first Congresswoman representing the 3rd Congressional District.
Because other women have run. I remember Michelle Lawrence sticks out for me and did not,
Phenomenal
prevail.
mentor, brilliant. She would have been
Mm-hmm.
amazing in Congress, amazing
Mm-hmm.
in Congress. Just coming
Mm-hmm.
from, her financial background
Yep.
in the banking industry, she would understand how to actually fix our
Yep.
affordability crisis
Yep.
when it comes to particularly affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she amazing. Always been a mentor of mine. She texts a group of
Mm-hmm.
us
Mm-hmm.
every single morning that we absolutely rely on to get through the day.
Mm-hmm. And so to end this in a light note, Mr. Man Frisbee said, I need to ask you who I think is
Oh,
going to win. Who's
hey,
going to win?
mister, I didn't know you were
Who's going
on.
to win the race, the Jamaicans or the Americans? I'm looking at him side eye like, now you don't want to do that.
Well, when we were running, mister, we were winning those races. Jamaicans are they taking us to task. I feel like the Pimp Relays is officially the Jamaican relays. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Me and
Mr.
I
Man
have a
Frisbee was.
friendly wager every single
Oh
year.
God, yeah.
Um,
The Jamaicans are taking it to
yeah,
us, man. They are
yeah, yeah,
taking
yeah,
it
yeah.
to us. But when I
David,
was running and when Mister were running, we were giving them a race for their money.
yes, you were, but you know, we
Yes.
got some twins in Jamaica that are, whew,
Listen, we're
we'll
all going to
figure
claim
it
it because we all in the African diaspora.
out.
There you go.
David says, so true. Relationships are a problem for journalists in Philadelphia. Child, I just can't. I gotta be a different kind of journalist. It just makes
Yeah.
sense to me to do journalism differently.
Yeah, but I
Can you?
always say politicians, elected officials don't serve until perpetuity. And if the city of Philadelphia, from a journalistic perspective, continues to be a trusted source and a trusted medium, that is absolutely what they need to do, is keep moving forward,
Yeah,
regardless of what politician is in office.
yeah.
You all are our trusted messengers,
Mhm.
and you all
Or we're
reporting
supposed to be.
news. Yes, supposed to be.
Yeah, we're supposed to be.
You're touching on a lot of stuff this
Yeah,
morning.
yeah, yeah. Listen, can you tell people how they can reach you to volunteer, to support?
Absolutely.
Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So I am on all social media outlets.
Mm-hmm.
That is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I am at Morgan for Philly. That's
Mm-hmm.
MorganForPhilly. I also have a website. If you go
Mm-hmm.
to www.morganforphilly.com, we are absolutely taking on as many volunteers as possible. There will be a series of meet and greets and
Mm-hmm.
community town halls and conversations that are coming up. So I welcome you to come out to
Mm-hmm.
not just hear about a little bit about me, as Andrea is learning this
Mm-hmm.
morning,
Mm-hmm.
but to hear about my platform, what I am looking for us to fight for. Because again, this seat is not just about me. This is about the future of the city of Philadelphia, what we will be fighting for down in Washington, D.C. But most importantly, what is it that you want to see out of your next Congress woman down in Washington, D.C., because that is critical.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding what people are feeling on the ground, ensuring that their voices are heard in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that it is a part of our agenda and a part of our platform. So that is something that I'm urging every single person to come out and do. So again, thank you, Andrea, for having me.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you for allowing me to come back, because I am absolutely going to come back so I can, just
You are
keep you
so
updated
welcome.
as to what the campaign is doing, the energy
Mm-hmm.
that we're feeling on the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
again, what we're fighting for, because every
Yeah.
single day we're waking up with, so many issues that are bombarding us.
Mm-hmm.
But this is no different than the 1960s. They made progress in, a
Yeah.
tumultuous time where,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have as many people impacted by the decisions coming out of
Mm-hmm.
Washington, D.C. Not everybody was fighting towards the same trajectory, but now
Mm-hmm.
we just have so much community coming together to push
Mm-hmm.
back and to fight for a country that we want to see in the future.
All right, Marguerite says, wishing you the best, Sora Morgan, the Overbrook
Oh,
resident
thank
of
you.
over 30 years, supports you.
Oh, thank you,
I
Soror.
have one last question. What do you do for relaxation? Because you can't keep running.
No, you cannot. I was at a meet and greet, and I had someone ask me what vitamins am I taking, and I actually asked them in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I do for relaxation, it makes me think of what I do to be grounded. Every single morning I am answering to God, and I'm a Christian. I am a um, a resident of Enon Tabernacle Baptist
Mm-hmm.
Church. So
Mm-hmm.
every day I am starting out absolutely with prayer to,
Mm-hmm.
allow me that foundation and
Mm-hmm.
allowing God to direct my purpose every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I come off that prayer line, I
Mm-hmm.
am obviously you working out, take time for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
eating well, taking every single vitamin that your doctor,
Yes,
recommends.
prescribed for you.
But also, really spending time with family. I think about my niece, and sometimes I get choked up when I just talk about like what is at risk for her and her generation. She's only 5 and she has no clue that we're making decisions that could, impact, her life on a day-to-day basis. But, I use every moment, every inkling of a second that I get to, spend time with family to, just bring it back to, people that want to love on you genuinely and, want to uplift you and just, want to encourage you. So I would say step number one, as soon as you wake up, make sure you hit that prayer line. So you're, walking in God's purpose and making sure that you are doing what, why you're here and, ensuring that it's not just about you, it's about, those people that you're serving. Then spend time with family and invest in self-care. I'm really big on self-care.
As you should be. As you absolutely should be. State Rep Morgan Cephas, it has been a pleasure having this conversation with you. We look forward to having more with you as long as this president has not decided to shut down the midterm elections.
Oh, that's what I think that's his plan. So when
That is his
he's
plan.
doing the occupied state with ICE and the National Guard, I believe he's firmly prepping for our elections.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's not that he wants to keep our community safe, because I don't think he does not care about our communities.
So take care, be
Thank
well,
you.
continue
You
to
too.
use your voice in a way that matters, and make sure you continue to shine light on what absolutely drives you,
Mm,
right, to run for this office, because I learned things today that I didn't even know I was going to learn, which is,
okay.
and it's in a good way, right?
Great.
I always, before this, I was like, I don't really know. I know she's nice, but I don't really, And
Yeah.
so, this was great. This was great.
Great. No, thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much,
me.
my sister. Have a good one.
You
All
too.
right. Bye bye. Bye bye. Oh, God. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we will continue to use this platform to give you the answers, to bring the people towards you that are willing to open their voices and their minds, to share with you why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing. I see the shift. I said this in 2019, that the people who have been in office forever and a day needs to be aware of the millennium, because they're coming. They are here. They're going to start taking the seats. Y'all, you might think I'm a little seer or whatever you want to, but my gut instinct has never been off when it comes to this stuff. And so if you want to remain in office, you've got to be a different kind of politician. If you want to retain your seats, you've got to think differently. You can't keep saying the same thing over and over again to the people, which is why anybody who comes on that wants to give a different point of view about what we're doing, because if you can't see that business as usual is no longer going to work, if you can't see that the people of this country, let's start with the Commonwealth, and then this country are no longer trusting politics as usual, whatever side of the coin you come from. If you can't see that more and more young people are being brought into office, even when you fight, even when you rail, even when you threaten them, even when you put out news that would have people frightened about them, oh, they're this and they're that and they're that, people are voting for their lives now, not for name recognition. So it is important that we begin to have these honest conversations with ourselves first, and then we show up in our platforms and we start to do the work. We start to do the work. The questions that I normally have, I didn't have, and it's probably for a good reason. I'll talk to my producer about that, in a minute. But it was a great interview, right? She says, so proud and excited for you, State Rep Cephas. I was able now I was able now to get to really hear who she was and what she was about and why this matters for her to run for office. Same for the other, what is that? Other two people? How many other people did I interview? Dr. Ayla, the gentleman from Temple University, and now Morgan Cephas. We're not forcing anybody to come on this platform, but anybody that comes on this platform will definitely have the continued voices to speak to this audience who is, you are really engaged, you are really researched. We've been talking for over a year. You all have been calling and texting me going, you told us to buy gold. You told us, you told us to, Because we're not playing business as usual. We're not going to dance and party and throw pictures when the lives of the people that live here in this Commonwealth and around the country are at stake. We're talking about medication, about insurance copays. I'm talking about the ish that matters. And some days I am absolutely worn out. For the last couple of weeks, I have been sitting absolutely still, except going to the gym. That's it. I am letting my mind rest. I am being thoughtful. I am curating what I have to do next. I am prayerful. I am meditating. I throw my phone into other rooms just so I can be quiet and still. My husband and I have sat in a room for a minute. We're just sitting there, just looking at each other. I said, I don't want to talk. I just want to absorb what's going on around me right now. This is the time of stillness in the middle of chaos, because if you don't get still in the middle of chaos, you can't see the stuff as it's coming from all directions. We are being distracted by all kinds of stuff, rightfully or wrongfully so. But we've got to starve those distractions and start to find what's going on. Janelle says, I got a little hope out of that interview. Yes. The next, Alexandra says, the next revolution is not coming, baby girl. It's here. When you have a 34-year-old leader of the city of New York, it is here. When you have people in your own party trying to do everything except support you, the revolution is here, right? And so we're being distracted by being told, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that or they didn't do that. It's not their turn. If one of the worst things politicians can do now is say to people it's not their turn, because they're voting against anything that you're a part of at that point. And I've been saying it and I've been saying it and I have been saying it. I'm going to get off these internets and go and take a spin class to get my mind clear, and then I'm going to come and sit down and figure out what the next move is, right? Marguerite says, in the midst of adversity, be still and know that I am God. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm not, not spending any tickets to go anywhere, not doing anything ridiculous. I'm finding ways to honor my soul, and that's by honoring people around me. That's it. That's it. That's just it. Because when we get caught up in the picture taking and the this and the that, we tend to forget, for even if it's only for a short period, what is exactly on our doorsteps. Not talking about what is happening to us is not going to make it go away. It's not going to make it go away. And as you can see, as the news is being reported, even if people are innocent and haven't done anything wrong, they find ways to splash out things to make people feel like they've done the craziest things, to turn folks against those who are doing the work. So choose stillness right now, my darlings. Choose not to spend if you don't have to spend. Spend in the necessary way. If for anything else, just choose. Sit still. And you ask God first, ask your soul, what should I be doing in this moment while I am sitting still? And when you move with purpose. That's where you've got to be, because so many people around you are so untrustworthy. You know them, they look good, they sound good, but they're untrustworthy. They're in the back rooms making deals that are destroying your lives. And in the front room, in front of all of you, are saying, oh, we've done this and we've done that and we've done that. They're making deals with the devil. And it's not helping you. There is no way we should still be doing some of these things. How does this man come in at 34 years old, with a governor who barely wanted to trust him, and now they have universal health care, affordable universal health care in the city and state of New York? When you pull your heads together and work, when you take your ego out of it, then things start to work. I am going to find my happy place after the gym, which are my grandchildren. Copy, paste, and repeat. And my grandpuppies, all three of them. Right? We're going to continue to live the best way we know how. We're going to continue to support each other as a family. Those of you who are in my tribe, you know yourselves. I could continue to support you. And all of you who listen here every day, you are a part of my tribe. Whether I agree or disagree with you, the fact that you get up every morning and you continue to show up here at 6:30 on the dot to listen to what we have to talk about, to hear how the banks are crashing, to hear how we're just, printing more and more money and there's no end in sight, to see how the insurance industry is on the breaking point too, right? So that's why all of this stuff is going on around us. The large co-pays, people have lost their jobs, can't afford to stay in their homes, and y'all are smiling and taking pictures and not really addressing that ish. And what you're doing when you address it is you point fingers. Point fingers at the Republicans, but point fingers at yourselves too, because you're all a part of the same coin. If you are not willing to have the conversations to help the people get out of the morass that they're in, right? The mayor of this city has decided that she's going to help the homeless and has done so. The people who are experiencing homelessness, all of that makes a difference. This episode, y'all, hey, this episode of Mornings with Mova, because I'm about to go in that spin class and have myself a good old time, is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Stay healthy, y'all. Because when the ish hits the fan, if you're not healthy, guess what? You'll be left behind to die. Love you all. Bye-bye.